All right. Guys, what is up? How we doing? Are we alive? Are we okay? You're dead? That's not good. Man, who's a fan of Coca-Cola? Yeah? Great. Well, this is all for me. It's actually, no, it's for my illustration in just a moment. Sharing's caring. Sorry, I ain't sharing here. All right. Hey, so guys, I get to be with you tonight. That's kind of exciting, right? Yeah. Don't be so excited. No, it's going to be great. Awesome. Hey, well, last week we entered into week 1 of our series, right? And we talked about this idea of just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. And so Mr. Jay Scott, gave a message along with Dylan Mizuraka, who was up here with you guys if you joined us. And so all around, again, just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should. And the fact that we have the freedom to do what we want doesn't mean that we always should do exactly what we want. And how do we understand our desires and our obsessions and our passions all under the name of Jesus and this whole thing called sexuality, dating, and so on and so forth. And so we're going to dive into week 2. Are we ready for this? Are we alive? Are we ready? Because I think it's going to be good. But to help paint the scene, I actually have a story I need to share with you. You guys okay if I share a story? Man, y'all are a tough crowd tonight. Daggone. All right, so I have a story to share, and it's about a dude named Drew. Can you guys say Drew? Drew, okay. So Drew was an 8th grade dude, okay? Drew was a bit of a player, okay? Drew, he had the looks. Some girls thought he was hot even, so like middle school girls thought he was this guy named Drew, right? So Drew was a player. He kind of knew he was a player. He knew that he had the looks. He knew he was athletic. He kind of had the jock thing going on, right? And any girl kind of was like, oh, I would love to date Drew, okay? So there's a girl named Hannah. Guys say Hannah. Hannah was, man, Drew had the eyes on Hannah, okay? He was like, oh, that girl's fine. As an 8th grader, he's like, that's fine. So he was like, I'm gonna go flirt with her. I'm gonna go and see if she can become my girlfriend. You know what? She was like, oh my gosh, Hannah, Drew is amazing. So they start dating, whatever dating looks like in middle school. They start dating, okay? And so they're dating. They're falling in love. They're getting ready to get married soon, right? And then a month into their relationship, Drew breaks up with her. You wanna know why Drew breaks up with her? Because he saw Rachel over here, and he thought that she was more like attractive in that, and so he was like, I'm breaking up with you. I'm gonna go be with Rachel. Is that a jerk move to do? That's a jerk move, right? Yeah. So he broke up with Hannah to go be with Rachel, and they start dating, right? And now they're dating. She's in love. They're in love. They're whatever dating looks like in 8th grade, right? And he starts flirting with her, dating her, and they're in love. And you know what he ends up doing 3 weeks later? He breaks up with her. Like, this guy has the nerve that he will break up with Rachel after 3 weeks of doing this, okay? All right, so now here's the thing, though. Rachel over here, now she's in tears. She's messed up. She's like, he was my all in all, and I was going to marry him, and like, this is the worst thing ever, right? She having this, like breakup, this, like, freak out moment. Now, any of y'all have, like, this, like, a really good friend who will, like, stand up for you if, like, something, like, bad happens over here? Like, if this person's, like, your wing person, like, your wing woman or your wing man, that, like, they're with you through, like, thick and thin. Anyone has a friend like that? A couple of you guys? I'm sorry that you got to get one of those friends then. All right. Okay, so Rachel had a friend, okay? Rachel had a friend, and the friend's name was Madison. Say Madison. Madison wasn't okay with what Drew just did, okay? Because Drew broke up with her best friend, and she's like, you ain't dropping my best friend like last year's shoes. I'm gonna go and talk to you and tell you who's boss, okay? So she is all up in his business now. Okay, here we go. So Drew, it's the middle of the end of the school day, right? She goes up to him. He's up against a locker, right? And he's just sipping a Coke. What's up? He's just sipping his Coca-Cola, not caring the world, right, at the end of the day. And she's up in his face, and she's like, I can't believe that you just broke up with my best friend. She is the best person in the whole world. She's a 10. God loves her, and you just broke up with her. You broke her heart. She's going to go, and now she's going to come be depressed. I can't believe that you just did that. And what's he doing? And she's like, and now she's angry. She's fuming, right? And she sees him sipping his Coca-Cola, right? And you know what? She says, you know what? If I was your girlfriend, I'd poison your Mountain Dew. Or your Coca-Cola. Sorry, I'd poison your Coca-Cola. Sorry, Mountain Dew's on my brain because I got a lot of energy right now. All right? She was like, I poison your Coca-Cola. Ho! Ho! Throwing fighting words, man. You know what Drew says back? He's like, girl, if I was your boyfriend and you poisoned my Coca-Cola, I'd drink it. Woo! He said I would drink, and they were ready to duke it all out. Now, hold on a second. Was that a loving response for him to get back there? Was that a loving response even for her to like get in his face and like be accusatory and she would stand up for her friend? But was that a loving thing to do? It was kind of love, but maybe a little bit misconstrued, right? Turn to your neighbor and say that ain't love. Turn to your other neighbor that you don't like as much and say that ain't respect. Okay? That ain't love, that ain't respect. Drew was thinking he could do whatever the heck he wanted, when he wanted, how he wanted, treat this girl, break up with this girl just because she's hot, and this other girl, whatever. Like I'm gonna play her, and I can do what I want. And these girls are thinking they're falling in love with him just because they think he's good looking or whatever, right? And they ain't respecting each other, they ain't honoring each other, they ain't loving each other. They're just up in the feels, right? They're up in the looks of how they look and what is pleasing to the eye, right? And we can do this, right? And so here's the thing. We're kind of having a conversation today, this idea that we can tend to value things because of what they give back to us, all right? We can tend to value things because of what they give back to us. For example, that I'm going to be on a sports team because I want to be competitive. I want to win a championship. I want to get to college and play on a collegiate level. I know that playing baseball has a value back to me that I'm going to pursue, right? If I'm hungry, I crave Chick-fil-A, right? Because Chick-fil-A is basically God's food, right? And so I know that Chick-fil-A is going to satisfy my stomach because I'm hungry. If I value the food, therefore I'm going to eat it, right? If I'm going to go and I'm going to respect my parents because if I don't respect my parents, I'm going to get punished. I value enough not being punished that I'm going to go and do what my parents say. Are you tracking this? Are you tracking this all right? So you tend to value because of what they can give back to us. But the problem is that we do this in a negative way all the time, right? Is that we can think in our selfish gain. We can think, what's in it for me? What do I get out of this? Right? And so we can think like this. The problem comes that when we put the value of somebody else over our desired value for them. Right, so everyone is made in the image of God. Everyone is beautifully and wonderfully made in the image of God. And what we end up doing is we say, hey, I want to value what I can get from them over valuing them as an individual. Over honoring them and respecting them and loving them and showing humility to them and serving them. Rather than doing those things, what do we end up doing many times? We say, no, what can I get from them? What can I get from them? How can I make myself elevated? How can I make myself feel better about my life, about the relationships that I have or the circumstances, or again, me. Right? We can do this. We're all guilty of it because we're selfish and we're prideful people. So what we want to have a conversation around what does it look like, how we can honor people better, because sometimes when we think about our sexuality and our sexual desires, we might be tempted to talk about people we're attracted to in ways that aren't valuing to them. That could happen, right? We may say things about their bodies or about their personalities that aren't all that respectful. Or maybe we might even think about them in ways that don't value them, and we think about them in ways like, oh, well, like they don't know. It's in my head. They don't know. What doesn't hurt? What they don't know doesn't hurt them, right? Like I can think about whatever I want with them. I can think about how hot they are. I can think about how much I just want to go and like make out with them, or I can think about how much I just want to go and do blank to them or with them, or undress them with my eyes. Right? We can do this, and we're tempted to talk about things, talk about the people we're attracted to in ways that we aren't valuing them. We say things about their bodies, personalities that aren't respectful, and we can think things that aren't even valuing, right? If we're being honest for a second, right, I want to invite you to a moment of honesty as middle schoolers that this can happen, right? Because we're selfish people, we're broken people, and we can put our desires and the value of what we want from somebody over the value of them as an individual and made in the image of God. The way we treat people we're spending time with matters, right? As we are sexual beings, that's the fact of the matter. We can't run away from the fact that we are sexual beings and we have sexual cravings, but that doesn't give us the right to do whatever we want when we want. True? True. Got a stubborn crowd over here on this side, right? And so how we treat people truly matters. That's the conversation that we want to have tonight. So last week we talked a lot about just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should do something. This week we want to have a more of a specific conversation. Okay, how are we intentionally choosing that I'm going to honor and respect the opposite gender, whether I find them attractive or not, whether I think I want to pursue a relationship with them or not. If I want to pursue a relationship with them, what does that even look like? Should I even do that? Is that sinful for me to want? I'm a sexual being. Do I just go into, cave into my sexualness, or do I resist that? Like, what do I do with all of this stuff? It's kind of confusing. Yeah? So what do we do with this? So we kind of want to talk about that because what we can do is we can do things like we can just flirt with them. We can just choose, I'll just flirt with them. It's no big deal. They're not really going to care. Or, it's not hurting anybody else. Let me just flirt with the person. Oh, we tease them, right? We can make fun of them. We can poke them. That's something that can happen. We can talk about them in a way that doesn't benefit anybody but us. We send photos. I have this craving. I have this sexual craving. I want it fulfilled. Therefore, I'm going to send a photo to somebody I know I shouldn't be sending just so I can get a response back from them. Or I'm going to ask for a photo because I have a craving. That's what I want. We say inappropriate things, sexual jokes or remarks that you shouldn't be saying. We lead someone on because it makes us feel good. And you're not interested, but you just like flirting around. And you lead someone on just because it makes you feel good about yourself, right? We pressure them into doing something physical that we know that we don't want to do. Like deep down, this is not good. And yet you pressure someone to do something physically that you shouldn't be doing. Now here's the thing. Some of you guys might be able to relate to some of this. Some of you might not be able to relate, meaning that but you know a friend who has done this, and they just flippantly use their language, flippantly use their actions. Unfortunately, maybe someone's even come into mind who disrespects the opposite gender, who's not honoring the opposite gender, or romantic interest, period, right? Or a lack there, a lustful interest, maybe is another way to put it. Or maybe, and I'll kind of dance between this, but maybe you've been a victim of some of this stuff. That you've been flirted with and teased with, or someone sent photos of you that you don't even know how they got them, or whatever, or said inappropriate things to you, or led you on because they were just all about them. And I'm sorry if that's you. No one should be treated that way. Period. Everyone is in the image of God, and how we view people and value people in the image of God directly correlates to the way that we live our life. So that's what we're talking about. How are you understanding that I am made in the image of God, you are made in the image of God, and that directly changes the way I live my life in my sexual desires and the way that I pursue godliness and sexual integrity. When we don't treat we don't treat others like they have value, here's what we end up doing. And I don't know if you can relate to this, or maybe it's happened to you or done to somebody else, but we wind up treating them like objects instead of people, right? This is an object, right? I take it, I want it, I drink it, it's nice. Man, Coca-Cola is really good too, right? So this is an object, right? But people are not objects. And yet, when we value what they can give from us over them as a person, we are objectifying them. Have you been there before? Have you done it to somebody? unfortunately, I know that some of you, maybe it's happened to you, that you've been objectified. And that's a sucky feeling. And I'm sorry, middle schooler, if that's happened to you. Because that is not fair, that is not right, that is not godly. It's not treating you in the image of God like you are. So let's continue, let's have a right conversation around, rather than saying I'm going to objectify people. In a culture, right? We see a culture, you see social media, you see movies, you see television shows, you see it all over the place. There is just objectification. Do it, like you view them as a sexual appeal and that's it, right? It happens. So how can we be better? How can we be better? That's the conversation we want to have. Not that we're better than other people, but how can we rise above the standard that culture is set for us, that we're just sexual beings, that's all we are, and you just go and gratify whatever you want, however you want to get it. You want to go and sleep around with girls, do it. You want to go around, sleep around with guys, do it. You want to go look at pornography all day long, you go ahead and do it, because you gratify your sexual desires. You want to go and just and sexually tease other people, you go ahead and do it. You want to go ahead and masturbate, go ahead and do it, right? That's what culture said. It's all about you. But I think there's another way. Another thing to process over. Another way to honor Jesus and the image of God that we have been created in. Every one of us wants to be valued, to be seen, to be loved, to be honored, and to be respected. Right? I don't know of a human being alive that doesn't want to be valued, to be seen, to be loved, to be honored, to be respected. I don't know someone. So if I want to be honored, seen, loved, valued, seen, loved, honored, respected, how am I doing that to other people as well? The gentleman right down here, Jacob and Cameron, and it would be great if you guys would quit the side chatter. That'd be great. Thank you. So how are we honoring and respecting each other, right? That's the conversation we want to have. And really kind of where we're going is to say this. We have value simply because we are made by God. I know that sounds like super trite or like simplistic or like, oh, like Tony, tell us something new. But let's go back to the basics for a second. You were made in the image of God. You were made by God, for a purpose. And yet we say, no. It's all about me. It's all about me. I do what I want, when I want, how I want. Right? I think we're getting it wrong. How we say, no, I'm made by God, for God. And how am I going to journey in that together? Let's take a look at Mark chapter 12 for a second. I want to look at actually a couple different verses that can help paint a picture of what does it look like that I'm not just going to satisfy my own sexual cravings and desires. Rather, I want to go and honor, respect, and love the person around me, the brother around me, the sister around me, the friend around me, the girlfriend around me, the person who's being outcast or the person who's being put down or whatever. Let's have a conversation around that. Mark chapter 12, verse 30 and 31, it says this, and you must love the Lord your God with your heart, with your soul, with your mind, and with your strength. The second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. No other commandment is greater than these. This is kind of the great commandment that we've heard over and over again. You got to love God and you got to love others. And you're saying, Tony, we've heard this over and over and over again. Okay, great. Let's have it over one more time, because I think that Jesus is, when he's speaking here, he says something that we miss. Because he says this. He says, you must love the Lord your God with your heart, soul, mind, and strength, right? So there's 4 components he just said. Jesus said, you got to love God, you got to love your neighbor with your hearts, with all of the passion that you have, man. You got to love other people well, with your soul, with all of your personality and all that God has made you into being. You need to love others, love God well, with your mind, with your cognition, with the way that you think about others. You need to love God well in all your strength, with all your physicality, with the literal limbs and bones that you have on your body. You are to love others. Let's take it into your sexualness now. Let's take it into your sexual drive, or the fact that you are a sexual being and that you have sexual cravings, right? You are called to love the person next to you, whether you like them or not, whether you there's someone in this room that you're attracted to. There's someone in the youth group you're attracted to, someone in your school, someone that you're maybe in a relationship right now. You're to love God with all the passion of who you are, and love that person with all the passion that you are, the purity and the passion of who you are, and all your personality, everything that Jesus has made you into being an introvert, being an extrovert, being someone who loves thinking, or loves like thinking like logically, or someone who doesn't really like thinking, like is like, oh, let me just kind of go all over the place and do, let me just be a little bit more free in my thinking, or someone who's very administratively minded, somebody who is a sports player, whatever your personality is, no matter what your bent is, love God with that. In your sexualness, with your mind and with your cognition, the way that you think about others, the things that people don't see, right? People don't see what's going on in your head, but are you worshiping God with it? If there was a way that I could take your brain and I could project it onto this wall here, would that be okay? What would we see? If there was a way that we could take everything that goes on in your brain, the way that you sexually think, and the way that you honor or lack of honoring other people, and we throw it up on the screen, would you be embarrassed? Or would you have nothing to hide? Or all of your strength, literally all of your physicality, your arms, your hands, your feet, your lips, your ears, your eyes, your private parts, right? Literally everything of who you are. You say, I'm going to love God. I'm going to love the person across from me. I'm going to love the person next to me. I'm going to honor them because they are worthy of honor, and so am I. Now, that's the second part. Love your neighbor as yourself. And so here's the part that I think that we can miss sometimes. When you think about loving your neighbor as yourself, I think this word yourself is really, really crucial and really important because, man, can I just be straight up honest? Some of you guys don't have a good view of yourself. Some of you guys don't have a good perspective of who you are. And because you don't really care, you don't love yourself well, you're okay with just saying, okay, you know what? I'm going to give my body to whomever asks of it. I'm going to send pictures to whomever asks because I don't really care. I'm going to go and sleep around with so-and-so because it doesn't really matter. You don't have a respect of the fact that you are made in the image of God and that you are beautifully and wonderfully made. And so the question I want to ask based off of that verse is, do you respect and do you love yourself? Do you respect and do you love yourself? Maybe that's something to process in small group. Do you respect and do you love yourself? What does that look like practically? To hold yourself in higher esteem. Not saying that you're all that, not saying that you are prideful and you can do whatever you want. No, I'm just saying that to the point where you hold yourself to a standard and you're not going to let people walk over you sexually. Or you're not going to just, again, send photos or do acts just because you're like, whatever, it's not a big deal. No, it is a big deal. It is a big deal. Another verse, Matthew 7:12, so in everything do to others what you would have them do to you. This sums up the law and the prophets, right? Kind of like this golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do to you. So if you think about how you want to be treated, if you want to be treated in such a way, then would you be willing to go and treat other people in that way as well? It calls for a lot of intentionality. It calls for a lot of grit. Romans 12:9-10, it says, love must be sincere, hate what is evil, cling to what is good, be devoted to one another in love, honor one another above yourselves, right? He's saying that, Paul's saying love must be sincere. Your love for the person next to you, and I'm not even kind of talking romantic love here. I'm talking like brotherly love. Your willingness to love someone sincerely means to love someone genuinely, to love someone with truth. So are you willing to be the seventh grader, to be the guy, to be the eighth grader, to be the girl who says, I'm going to love sincerely, I'm going to love genuinely, and that means sometimes I'm going to be selfless rather than selfish for a change. I'm going to love sincerely. I'm going to hate what is evil, which means I'm going to run away from sexual sin. I'm going to run away from selfishness. I'm going to run away from, I'm going to hate that stuff, and I'm going to run and pursue Jesus. Cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourself. I love that part. Honor one another above yourself. Another way of wording it is to outdo one another in showing honor. outdo one another in showing honor. You're just so infatuated. I want to honor you. I want to honor you. I want to honor you. I want to love you. How do you do that well? It's by viewing them in the image of God and treating them as such in the image of God and treating yourself like you're made in the image of God. And you're not going to listen to what culture says and what the world says about pursuing sexuality just because you can, but to put yourself on a higher ground and a standard what Jesus asks of your life. Philippians 2:3, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourself, right? Value others above yourself. It's really, really, really hard to do stuff not do something out of selfish ambition, though, man. I'll be honest. Who struggles with selfishness in this room? 2 hands up for me. Yep. Why? We're selfish. We're broken. We're jacked up. Sinners. And we do stuff out of selfish ambition. We do stuff out of, well, what can I get out of it? How can I get something out of you? No. Not what can I get out of you? How can I honor you? What if we flip that script? Not what can I get out of you? How can I honor you? What would that look like if that's all we thought about? Not what can I get out of you, but how can I honor you? And in humility, value the others above yourself. Last verse, 1 Peter 2:17, it says, show proper respect to everyone, love the family of believers, fear God, and honor the emperor. Show proper respect to everyone, right? God, this isn't like rocket science. Like this isn't like, oh my gosh, this is like a master's degree in college, and how in the world am I going to achieve this? No, it's pretty basic. Show proper respect. Be a decent human being. But we miss it, right? Because we're locked into our own perspective. We're locked into my vision. We're locked into that hot girl. We're locked into that hot guy. We're locked into, okay, how am I feeling right now? Or how am I getting my sexual cravings satisfied, right? We think about these things rather than think about, no, how can I honor the other person around me? These are the conversations that we must be willing to process over and talk in our small groups about, and have a plan of how we're going to intentionally do this, because if we're not intentional with our sexuality, it's going to overrun you. Did you know that? It's going to overrun you if you choose to sit idly by and you're just going to sit down here and you're going to say, you know what, yeah, no, it's okay. I'll figure it out. I don't really know what I'm going to do, but I'll figure it out. No. When you are choosing to not do anything about it, you are going to get knocked over. Okay, here's another, where are my athletes in the room? Who gets, okay, great. You might be you know what athletic position is in the room, right? Athletic position is when you are, knees are spread apart, your knees are bent, and you are ready to go, and you're kind of in this stance, ready to go, like a basketball player or a football player, or even baseball, right? And you're kind of on the balls of your feet, right? Athletic position is, I am ready to go. Here's what happens so many times in our sexual battles, right? Is that our feet are really spread out, our knees are locked, and we are back on our feet. What happens if someone comes up here and pushes me over? Don't do it, Gavin. If someone comes up here and pushes me over, I'm going to fall over, right? Why? Because I'm not prepared. I'm not prepared. Guys, we have to be prepared. We have to say, no. I'm willing to put some effort into this. I'm willing to put some work into it because it is worth it. Because the devil, the Satan, your enemy, is here to attack you. And to say, oh yeah, you can go and satisfy your sexual cravings. You can go ahead and just lounge around and just be on the back of your heels all the time because it's okay and it's a little bit more easy. The fact of the matter is, it is easier. It's harder to be in an athletic position, right, and you're ready to go, and whatever's coming at you, you're ready to go, right? That's harder, but it's worth it. So what's it look like that I'm going to do that when I'm honoring other people? Man, I'm willing to say no to self and yes to the person around me, meaning I'm going to love them, I'm going to respect them, I'm going to treat them in the image of God. Rather than saying yes to my selfish desires, I'm going to say yes to being selfless and loving them well, standing up for the person who's being sexualized or objectified. Standing up for yourself if you're being sexualized or objectified. Being willing to not do that yourself. Call yourself to a higher standard when it comes to sexual integrity. What is sexual integrity? We're going to keep coming back this over and over again. Guarding my potential for intimacy through appropriate boundaries and mutual respect. Guarding my potential for intimacy. So I'm guarding it. So when I'm guarding what I'm ready. So if someone's behind me and I don't want someone to get to it, I'm ready. I'm guarding the thing, the precious prize that's right behind me. I'm guarding the potential for intimacy. Guys, there's potential all around us, right? There's potential for intimacy, for fake intimacy, for true intimacy, and it's all around us. So we are guarding the potential for intimacy through appropriate boundaries and mutual respect. That I'm going to put boundaries in my life. I'm going to have people who are holding me accountable. I'm going to have certain filters on my phones or my computers, or I'm going to choose to intentionally think well of the people around me. I'm going to have scripture on my mind that when I'm tempted, that I'm going to have these boundaries in my life, and I'm going to have mutual respect for each other. There's this mutual respect of each other that we ought to be having. Because here's the thing, guys. When we think about sexual integrity, it's a phrase I want to stick with versus this word purity. And here's why. Because we throw the word purity out. And purity is a good word. True, it really, really is. But here's the thing. Sometimes purity can have a negative connotation. And the purity movement in the church is this idea of I have my purity, and I do something bad, and then I lost my purity. Okay? It's the idea of, I sinned sexually, I looked at pornography, I made out with this girl who wasn't my girlfriend, I had sex with this guy, I did this, and now I've lost my purity, and now I am just a mess. God hates me. I'm never going to be a good person ever again. And here's the thing, rather than thinking in that lens, I want us to think through the lens of sexual integrity, because the sexual integrity is a journey of your holiness, that you are not broken and you are not defined by your mistakes. And sometimes the idea of purity can be, I lost my purity, now it's gone. No. You don't lose it, guys. In Jesus, you have your purity, but we're going to think through the lens of sexual integrity, where it's a journey every single day, that if you messed up, you can dust yourself up, pick yourself up, and you can keep on walking in the name of Jesus. And you can live with sexual integrity of guarding my potential for intimacy through appropriate boundaries and mutual respect. Is this making sense? I'm hoping this is making sense, because I want you to know that you are not defined by your mistakes. So if you have made a mistake in the past sexually, I want you to know that you are not too far broken. I want you to know that you are not messed up, and that your future is screwed, and that you can never have love or anything like that. No, those are lies. If you've made a mistake, first off, welcome to the club. We've all made mistakes. I've made mistakes sexually. But I'm going to continue to guard my potential for intimacy through appropriate boundaries and mutual respect. What's that going to look like for you? And your willingness to move forward in the name of Jesus. How you treat others and yourself matters to God. How you treat others and yourself matters to God. So when we think about this idea of how you treat others, maybe you've been treated in a way that, again, was not honoring. So before we wrap up, I want to share this one last thought, okay? And that's this. Someone's lack of value in you does not define you. So if someone has devalued you, if you have been abused, if someone has exploited you, or objectified you, I'm sorry. And I wish I could take that away from you. But I want you to know that your sexual integrity is still intact. And that someone's lack of value does not define you. You are not defined by what's happened to you. You are defined by the person of Jesus on the cross and his resurrection. And choosing to not be defined by that, not living in shame because you don't have to. Do you need to work through it? Potentially. Do you need to process it out with a safe person? Probably. But I want you to know that you are not defined by it. If you've someone who has done something sexually that you're not proud of, I want you to know that you're not defined by that. You're defined by Jesus. So let's land the plane and let's think about this, okay? One, as we go to small groups, I want you to do this. I want you to ask what it would look like for me to treat this person, a person, any person, in a way that honors God, right? So I want you to think in this lens, okay? Now, it's not about me. It's not about me, because we do this so often, so easily. I want you to, what would it look like for me to treat another person in a way that honors God, right? Because how I view myself and how I view others matters to God. So let's go ahead and have a real and honest conversation about that rather than just shrugging it off, acting like it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. Secondly, do I believe that I have value to God and others and myself? Because if you believe that you are valuable, it's going to change the way you live your life and the way you hold yourself up in a higher composure and standard. And maybe that's something that you need to kind of process through and work through. How you treat others and yourself matters to God. And so what we're going to do is you're going to get a chance to process once more in your small groups. And it might be weird, it might be hard, it might be difficult, but would you be willing to be vulnerable to process with your group? And to do so well, knowing that you are not defined by your past or your present. You are defined by the person of Jesus and how we choose to honor people and how we choose to worship God with my heart, with my passions, with my soul, with my personality, with my mind, with my cognition, with my strength, with my physicality. And I choose to be in offensive position, ready to go. What does that look like for you practically? Let's have a discussion around that. So Jesus, we need you as we go into discussion, as we process these things out. God, may you live through these conversations. May you be honored. May you be glorified. May these students feel like they have the space and the vulnerability to do just that, because I know it's hard. I know it's difficult. I know it's anxious-driven. I know that there's sometimes shame attached to these conversations, but God, let them know that they are free and that they are redeemed in you and that they are loved. Oh, God, they're crazy loved. God, we love you. Thank you so much for loving us first. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, before we break, last thing is this. I haven't shared this in a while up on the screen, so I just figured, you know what, with you middle schoolers, I want to make sure that if you have a social media, if you have a cell phone, please know that you can reach out to me. You're welcome to take my number down, find me on social. If you have questions, if you need to process, your small group leader is there for you. They love you like crazy, and they want to be there for you. But if you need another person, if you need someone who will listen to you, if you need someone who you can process with, you need someone who you can pray, that can pray for you, I'm here, and I care. And I love you guys, and I want to continue to grow with you, just like your small group leaders do as well. So please let me know how I can personally be of assistance to love you well moving forward. Get out of here.